Carlos, you didn't even think to ask fine young lady her name?
It's Jill.
Nice to meet you, Jill.
You know, there were 2 games that I was looking forward to this year. Doom Eternal, which, you already know my thoughts on. And if you don't, oh boy, do we have a video for you. The other game is this one, Resident Evil 3. Since the remake of Resident Evil 2 that came out last year wound up being my favorite game of 2019, I was incredibly hyped to see Nemesis get the same treatment. So did the game manage to serve as a worthy follow-up to RE2? Let's take a look and find out. Just like the 1999 original, in Resident Evil 3 you play as Jill Valentine, member of the Raccoon City Police Department's Special Tactics and Rescue Service, simply known as STARS, as she attempts to escape the city during a massive outbreak that has been turning people into the living dead. And not just people, but dogs as well. No crows this time around though. Along the way, Jill meets up with Carlos, a member of the UBCS who was sent into the city to try to save civilians and cover for Umbrella's massive screw-up. And of course, all the while she has to contend with the massive bioweapon, Nemesis, who is specifically hunting all of the remaining members of STARS, which basically winds up being just Jill pretty quickly. Even though the story largely follows the one that we saw in the original game, I'm not going to go any further than that, just to avoid spoiling things. I will say though that it is worth noting that the story in this game does play out a bit differently. So even if you know the original game like the back of your hand, you might just be surprised by some of the things that happen this time around. Now, while I'm sitting here talking about the gameplay, I'm going to do my best to not mention Resident Evil 2 basically every sentence, which would be easy since the 2 games play basically identically with only a few minor tweaks here and there. Like pretty much every Resident Evil game since the 4th one, RE3 is played in a traditional third-person style. As you make your way through the desolate hellscape that is Raccoon City, you'll pick up items ranging from guns to ammo to herbs, and a few items needed to solve puzzles. Though it is worth noting that the puzzles in this game aren't really puzzles as I would define them, as most of them are basically just find one thing, combine it with another, and boom, problem solved. And in addition to the usual Resident Evil gameplay, the dodge mechanic from the original game is back. However, since the dodge mechanic is here, we lost the sub-weapon system. So if you get grabbed, you can't just shove a grenade down the zombie's gullet and call it a day. It is a bit of a bummer, but honestly, I think it's a fair trade-off. Okay, so I've been putting it off for too long. Now it's time to talk about Nemesis. You know, when Capcom announced that they were remaking RE3, I couldn't help but just think of the possibilities for how they could handle the big, bad, ever-present poster child of the original game. In the RE2 remake, they absolutely nailed Mr. X, making him by far the most anxiety-inducing enemy in a video game ever. My blood pressure still hasn't gone down. So imagine what it would be like with a being that is capable of a lot more than that old-fashioned tyrant. But in the RE3 remake, Nemesis is more of a set-piece enemy, only really popping up at predetermined moments. Just a reoccurring boss monster. And I feel like this is a huge missed opportunity. Imagine if any time you were out and about, you could turn the corner and see Nemesis standing there, just coming to mess you up. That would be horrific and absolutely amazing. Yet that's not really the case here. Outside of Nemesis though, the new monsters are fantastic. Gammas aren't overly threatening to deal with, but they certainly do help boost the tension in the sewer section. Hunters in the hospital make me never want to play that section again, as about every single time they round the corner, I just about have a heart attack. And the Deimos? Well, HR Geiger called and he wants the Xenomorph back. Great stuff. This game looks and sounds fantastic. Just like the remake of RE2, the facial animation on the characters is amazingly detailed, and the environments look great, with fire being a particularly impressive bit of graphics, which is nice since most of the world is on fire at this point. And the soundscape is pretty well crafted too. While there isn't a ton of music that really stands out, there are a few tunes that really go a long way towards helping sell the tone of the game. Plus, the save room music is back, which I am sure the fans of the original games probably appreciate, as it is definitely an iconic piece of music. I also want to take a second to shout out some of the voice work, specifically the stuff done by Nicole Tompkins, the voice actor behind Jill. She does a great job of not only embodying the pure badassery of the character, but some of her groans of pain just sound visceral and almost too real. Like in the beginning when she crashes a car into Nemesis, her vocalizations during that part made me really feel the pain her character was going through. The Resident Evil 3 Remake is a good game, but certainly has its issues. Nemesis isn't nearly as threatening as Mr. X was in RE2, despite being a monster that is capable of so much more. On top of that, the game's short duration and the axing of the original game's mercenary modes in favor of a standalone multiplayer that, let's be honest, basically no one asked for, really just left me wanting more from it. However, the gameplay is solid, the new monster is absolutely horrifying, and the environments look great. Seeing Raccoon City in the throes of a full-on zombie outbreak in HD will never not be awesome. Plus, come on, the characters in these RE Engine games continue to look so realistic that it's almost unnerving. As I said, it is a good game, possibly verging on great. But in a year or two, when I get the urge to play a Resident Evil game, will I reach for Resident Evil 3? Probably not, but that doesn't mean it isn't worth checking out. Maybe just wait until it eventually goes on sale. Have you played Resident Evil 3? If so, what do you think about the game? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below, and while you're down there, why not consider subscribing to the collective for more awesome content just like this? Oh, and ring that bell. It really helps us out. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.